vigilante. However, I know what you're saying, but I just want to make sure, like, the case you're talking about, I know exactly what you're talking about. The ICE unit was a part of that. It wasn't just kids for the hell of it.
So I have a question to those in the room, because, like, again, this is all fascinating to me. I did not know this was going on. Thank God my kids are grown. So why hasn't this been, like, brought up in the news? Like, why? Like, we just had this Minnesota school. Jacob Fry. Hold on. Wait, hold on. I've got Jacob Fry on my fucking TV right now giving me the "we just need to ban" speech, and then we're going to rally this with Ilhan Omar going, America is a terrorist country and we need to stop this vile hate, and going down these rhetorics, but nobody mentioning this part. Like, this, parents knew about this because, you know, they're working, they can only do so much in the time. But if they knew this shit was actually going on, they would be like me, like, hold on a moment, what the fuck is my kid doing? It's like, no,
this shit is harder to control.
I didn't ask you. Hold on. I didn't ask you. I asked, like, the people that are in the U.S. that know this stuff. You just found out. You're in Calgary. You don't know this. So, like, who knows this?
Brad, someone is in Minneapolis. These are the same people that the police force left loaded guns inside their cars during the very first night of George Floyd protests. The cop car gets broke into. And so because they use the claim from the police, go get the loaded gun that someone broke the cop car because they just wanted to cause damage to the cop car, nothing more than getting a gun. They released tear gas indiscriminately to everyone. Same people. So, I'm not surprised.
Brad, I was going to go ahead and cast.
Thank you, Mr. Fundy. Brad, I just want to say thank you for asking that question, because I didn't know that either, and it makes a lot of sense, because now I'm thinking, like, these are not like lone wolf incidents as we thought before. Probably there is something to it, that is a network that we can look at. But this is really fascinating news to me, and thank you on the state for saying this, and also Brad for investigating.
Yeah, thanks for this room, Brad. I mean, this is fascinating. The same shit's going to end up happening in Canada, too. So it's not completely off topic, definitely.
I agree. It's something, excuse me, Mr. Finley, I'll go right straight back to you, sir. Something that's interesting, and it goes back to the full circle of what someone had brought up earlier, and we've only had this room open for an hour, which is the parent being removed from the actual family, not the parents not being actively engaging with their child. So these young teens in particular can engage in really deep dive search onto their tablets, onto their computer screens within this community. So it kind of does tie into it. I'm opening my eyes to it as well. I'm the same. I would love to do a room on this topic just to open the ears and eyes of parents that may have young teens. I'm going to add you as a friend right now, and I would love to chat with you about this. Go ahead, Mr. Finley, and think.
So with this group specifically, because I've heard of it before, but from my understanding, it's like very fringe and like only a couple of cases here in the States, because it's not just here in the States that this group has had influence on. There's like other instances in other countries, but it's like very fringe, and it's like the connections aren't there to say that there's a pattern that we have to do that requires a response. I think, again, there's only been like 2 people that are loosely connected to this particular online group, as far as I understand.
Could you go into more detail about what you understand about?
So it's been mentioned. So I study criminal justice still, and I read a lot of stuff like by the Violence Project, the Innocence Project. Like there's different groups that I read a lot about, and I've heard this, like whenever there's a mass shooting, once the dust settles and like the facts come out, not in the news facts, but like the facts come out from the organizations, they talk about, what they've investigated, et cetera, and they write about this stuff. Like it's been mentioned, right? But it's not that there's a clear, it's not been mentioned enough that there's a clear link between all of the school shooters here. There's only been 2 in which this has been loosely mentioned. The Madison is one I can think of off the top of my head. I forget the other one, but I know the Madison shooter, because that's when because I used to be in law enforcement in Wisconsin, so I still follow a lot of stuff there. And so the Madison shooter, and I forget the other one, but the Madison shooter for sure. But there's one other one, but I can't remember the name of it. But if you guys are really interested in like really digging past this, and I too got off of the white male train when I started digging into even like shooting, like mass shootings, because you begin to understand the narrative and what draws attention and what does not, which is why we shape our minds around this. But again, that's also why I have the thesis that this divestment in boys is kind of creating all of these problems, because there's uptick in youth crime amongst young men. Obviously, school shootings is a problem. Dropout rates of young men is bad. Reading scores are bad. It's just bad all around.
In the Minnesota area, we kind of set a giant middle finger to the federal government for funding because it came with so many strings attached that they couldn't run the schools the way that they were. And so then the federal government said, okay, we're going to discontinue all of your government grant foundations. So Minnesota just got hit with every government-funded non-for-profit was unfunded. So add that to the mix of this current time.
Yeah, so just to clarify, whatever facts or lack thereof that were just shared. So December 16th, 2024, Madison, Wisconsin, what he's referencing, Natalie Samantha Rupnow. Telegram is also related to the January 6th incident in 2021 that happened at the riot at the Capitol. There was an incident March 1st in Waukesha, Wisconsin with Nikita Capps that was related to the terrorist organization known as the Order of Nine Angles. May 18th, 2025, Los Angeles, California, Guy Edward Bartkus. January 22nd, 2025, Nashville, Tennessee, Solomon Henderson. July 28th, 2025, New York City, New York, Shane Tamura. And to be specific in global incidents, because this isn't just over here, there's May 20th, 2025 in Pirkkala, Finland, where I believe he was 15 or 16, went to school and videotaped himself stabbing his schoolmates. Then there was another incident, the one that Natalie Samantha Rupnow from Madison, Wisconsin referenced, August 12th, 2024, that happened in Eskişehir, Turkey, from Arda. I apologize. I have no clue how to pronounce that. But just to be specific, these are some incidents that are actually related based on literally the manifestos of the people who did them and their social media accounts of like the past year alone.
I'm just going to say this real quick. Hold on. So as I'm deep diving while I'm listening to S&T and Joe and a couple others, I mean, I even found that, I guess apparently this is real enough that Frontline did an expose on this, along with National Geographic and other entities are starting to do exposés on this. Like BBC is now going to pick this up. ProPublica is picking this up. So now I'm like, I feel really dumb. I had no idea this was going on. I mean, you know what? The way it comes across, I probably would have just threw it out there as a conspiracy theory or some other crackpot kind of far-reaching thing like Martian moles take over DC.
It's a new culture of violence, and violence has evolved over centuries.
So to be clear to S&T's point, there is a larger group that I am not familiar with. I'm speaking specifically to school shooters in this particular group. That there is a larger group, and I also did mention that it's not just in the States. I did mention that it's global.
Let's hear it from public media, because actually this is where I first, no, maybe not first or second. I had heard of Telegram, and I know that Telegram, one of them came from Telegram, which I've been a bit suspect of. So I was taking my suspicion of Telegram, and actually NPR did something on Telegram. And I was like, hold on, Telegram, or they looked talking about Telegram, so that's why I watched it. So NPR actually broke one of the stories about Telegram. They also included, there was 4chan is the other thing that's also you can look up. But yeah, let's hear it for public broadcasting. NPR did do a really great expose on this a while ago.
Wait, why would we want to fund them? Let's cut funding.
In my home in British Columbia, Amanda Todd, I don't know if you guys remember this story. She's a 15-year-old girl from British Columbia. And what happened is that she died by suicide, right, in 2012. And so this was an early case of online manipulation. She was being like prolongedly harassed by this dude from the Netherlands, right? So she posted a video in September 2012, right, of her using flashcards saying that she was exposing herself, like her body to by webcam to a stranger. And he said, if you don't send me pictures of you doing all these weird things, then I'm gonna it was a sextortion case in cyberbullying. And it was this Dutch guy, Aiden Koban, this Dutch Turkish guy. He was in Netherlands, and he was already convicted multiple times for online sexual extortion. And they actually brought this motherfucker to BC here, and he's in Canada now. He's got 13 years in prison. So I mean, this kind of online manipulation of young people, it's just going to get worse because the technology is getting more sophisticated. This is fascinating.
Hold on, because so before anyone goes, hey, welcome, Cedric. I'm not going to berate you. You can have all sorts of opinions up here. I don't like, as long as you can back it up and support them. But I'm just really fascinated currently. I just went to the State Department, and I shit you not, this is on here. The Department of State is designating Telegram Collective and its 3 leaders as specifically designated global terrorists pursuant to EO 13224 as amended January 13th, 2025. So this, ladies and gentlemen, was actually instituted by Biden's administration and codified over by the Trump administration. So 2 separate opposite administrations have carried this over. It goes through, Telegram is a transnational terrorist group that primarily operates on the social media and digital messaging platform Telegram. The group promotes violent white supremacists, solicits attacks or perceived adversaries, and provides guidance and instructional materials on tactics, methods, and targets for attacks, including critical infrastructure and government officials. The group also glorifies those who have conducted such abhorrent attacks. Attacks or attempted attacks by Telegram users motivated and facilitated by the group include the October 22 shooting outside an LGBTQI plus whatever bar in Slovakia, a July 2024 planned attack on energy facilities in New Jersey, the August 24 knife attack on the mosque in Turkey, the September 24 DOJ charged 2 U.S. Telegram leaders with 15-count indictment for soliciting hate crimes, soliciting murder of federal officials, and conspiring to provide material to support terrorists. Additionally, the State Department has designated 3 leaders of Telegram as SDGTs, pursuant to EO 13224 as amended. Ciro Daniel Armane Ferrari is a Telegram channel administrator. Ferrer is a Brazilian national residing in Brazil. He'll never leave there. Nolasil is a senior member of Telegram, is located in Croatian national residence in Croatia. And Hendrik Wall Mueller is a Telegram channel administration. He's a South African national residing in South Africa. South Africa will give your ass up. I believe they will. So yeah, this is like some real shit. Why didn't we hear about this? Why are we coming out?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Brad. Why haven't we heard about it?
It's a fucking Hydra. It's got no head. You cut it off. It's
This
gonna
is
pop up somewhere else.
Yeah, it's decentralized for sure. I apologize.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I think what's crazy is that like this is what we're supposed to be focusing on. I think both sides of the aisle can definitely get together on this and try to figure what this fit is, because I don't know why it has to be one or the other, but this is crazy though. This is the first time I'm hearing this. I'm kind of shocked that this isn't mainstream knowledge. So thanks to I'm the Saint for that. Also kind of a little ironic because the cult also venerates the saints, and you have I'm the Saint on it too. Just
Local
It's actually
Republicans.
not mainstream though. That's actually what's so what we're talking about is that I first picked it up off of Telegram and NPR, and then I'm the Saint works in this, and then we're picking this up off of other channels. But the major broadcasting stations are not broadcasting this. I only found it on NPR as far as in articles on stuff like that, or on Telegram.
So when people say that why haven't the news been talking about this, one of 2 reasons why. One, if this became mainstream media coverage, then A, you're going to legitimize them. Or B, you're going to drive them underground.
No, option C, you're going to glorify it. It's the same reason why.
Right, that's what I mean by legitimate.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the same thing as to why when human trafficking operations take place, it's not broadcasted, because what we don't want is for people who are sick fucks to get off, right?
Exactly.
On seeing the victims and the cases and the information. So you generally would have to know where to look to actually see the court case and the entire operation from beginning to end. So I think that the moment, you're right, sorry, Adrian, you're correct. The moment you legitimize it and you bring it to surface, you're indirectly recruiting.
Exactly. And then there's VPNs and there's all sorts of different ways of hiding exactly where you're living. I mean, it sounds like these guys are pretty committed to the cause and they've been doing it for a long time. That's why we know who they are. But if you have crazy kids using the internet to do crazy shit, if it's a one-off, good luck trying to find out who they are. Like, you know. And the other thing is that, you know, how much control do you want over the internet, right? Control, like, even all these massive social media companies or internet companies, whatnot, they can't have total control over everything. Like, it's a hard problem.
I mean,
well, that's actually where they flourish. One of the reasons it flourished so much on Telegram is because it's very unmodified or moderated. Yes, Telegram is significantly unmoderated, so that's why it flourished so well on Telegram.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, a lot of social media is like controlled by somebody. Like, a lot of the internet is already controlled, so I don't know why you couldn't just, you know, filter the kind of messages and information is being, you know, going through your system, and just stop that from happening. Like, it's completely possible.
I'm
saying it is possible, because someone was saying that, like, you can't stop it, and that's the point I was making in the chat, that I think some people you know, always bring up this counterpoint of, like, not being censored, or, like, you know, someone not having too much control over the internet, which they already do. They can, you know, stop you from saying certain things already. I don't know why some people are like, wanna, you know, at the risk of allowing this kind of culture to continue, like, they just want to protect some kind of, like, free speech thing, which is, this even isn't a free speech thing. You know, things on the internet. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think people should get over that, and things that are obviously influencing a certain kind of outcome. I think it should be okay to censor that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, if I was the leader of a very, let's say, North Korea, very unfriendly country, and I wanted to create a whole bunch of problems, but I didn't have tons and tons of money, man, you know, recruiting very mentally unstable teenagers is not a bad idea. It's a cheap way to rip apart the culture of, you know, it's asymmetrical warfare at its highest. It could be asymmetrical warfare. I'm not saying it is at this moment, but.
Well, you also have the administrators of the platforms, and I think, I'm not sure if this is, as to my knowledge, Telegram is founded and still owned by a foreign national. I think maybe Russian. I think he is Russian. Yeah. So so there's a certain amount that can get through, because Russia has very different, and also him as the owner has, I guess, a very low moral code. But no, if this was in the US and this was like Instagram, it would probably get censored. But no, this is from a Russian Telegram and from a Russian owner, and it's kind of interesting actually how the shooter had Russian written, although incorrectly, in English on the guns. That's a little bit creepy actually, but.
So I want to go.
A lot, they are foreign owned. That causes problems.
So I want to go back to this Minnesota school shooter. So we're saying that this Minnesota trans shooter because apparently they were trans, and that's got to be the highlight talking point. But apparently this shooter, the school shooter, is somehow connected to this organization that I'm now watching. Like, I got a pool of documentaries and research on it, and I guess apparently they're responsible for the Christchurch attack. So somehow it's correlated to this? I'm confused.
Yeah, so again, on their rifle, which I may even have a picture of, I'll look, but in the video that they posted on YouTube, on their rifle, they had painted the name Rupnell, Samantha Rupnell from the Madison, Wisconsin attack onto their gun. So, and an example of what I was saying about the Saints culture, that girl, Samantha Rupnell, committed a heinous act, in which case hit their leaderboards, and so they revered her now as a saint. And this person specifically looked up to Samantha Rupnell, thus putting her name on their gun.
Right, it's like these crazy fucks in Europe who say, like, in the name of, I don't know, what is it, ISIS or something, they kill someone. It's not as if they're organized insider member of ISIS. It's just that they go online, they spend all this time in their parents' basements, they get inspired by them, and then they do shit, and they say, and they want to claim association with them. It is a loose association. To what degree or not, well, that's, debatable, right? Under how much influence, it's probably a case by case sort of thing. But it is one of these things where the intentions of the individual person is terrorism. And they may claim to be, part of this terrorist group, but they may have never been to, ISIS, they've never been to Iraq or whatever, Syria. And so it's one of these things where, crazy people with lots of bad ideas meet each other, give each other worse ideas, and then claim association.
I just don't. So I just want to, anyways, I'm like, I'm not even trying to give like personal opinion, any of this. I just think the facts are important. I'll just give an example of, I brought up March 1st in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Basically there was a boy who killed both of his parents.
Waukesha.
Thank you. I'm like, I have no clue how to say it. Waukesha, Wisconsin. He killed both of his parents, and during the trial referenced the Order of Nine Angles. So this group, also known as the O9A, they're actually like heavily organized, and they have like roots back to like the 1970s. And this group specifically goes out of its way to have its recruits rise through its ranks by basically infiltrating political sectors, law enforcement sectors, basically to help them do the things that they are doing. And this is a global organization. One example is, I think it was 2020. Let me look through in 2020, there was a person in the U.S. military, Shandon Simpson, who was found to be like one of the people that was in this O9A order. So to like basically give like a visual concept, there's a large umbrella known as like the COM network. Under that umbrella, one of the groups is like the 764 network, but there's other ones like the Ottawaffen division, groups where they have arrested some of the higher ups, just like Telegram, they have arrested some of the higher ups, yet we still over the past year have had multiple occurrences where people are tied to this network and committing these heinous crimes. If we're like on Clubhouse right now and we're all in this house and we see each other every day, and we hold true to these ideologies, I mean, I think like, for example, we know how people on Clubhouse historically over the past 5 or 6 years have planned huge events, have done like things, you know what I mean? The social media networks that they're using are simply like this but encrypted. Discord is just like this but encrypted with better text form. Another one is Signal. Was it last year that they were mad at the president because those military plans, how they were talking about them on Telegram, and they invited the journalists and they screenshotted them. Like, these are encrypted networks that a lot of people are using, that basically these people are using them to keep this violent information that they're sharing amongst each other safe without obviously getting caught and arrested. They're sending out, like books, zines, programs, whatever you want to call it, on like how to make poison, how to make bombs, how to properly kill somebody, how to properly plan, something like this, in which case to like route yourself into an area and get as, like, these are like things that are actually, like, in my opinion, in some cases, very well organized, depending on the person. And I would say this from the evidence of, you have the people who are just calling 911 with fake information, and then you have the people who are actually starting to commit these acts, and then you have the people who are doing like these bigger events of terrorism.
So, I understand all that, but here's what I'm drawing, like, based on what you cited, and then what I'm reading, because like I'm just completely fascinated, and then what I'm watching, like, just quickly on clips here, everything goes, it's white supremacy. However, I'm going to carve this one out. There seems to be, it does have this like nationalistic tendency. I'm not going to discount that. But I'm confused as if the leaders, not all of them, they're not all white. That's an amazing part. And not all the people in this seem to be, like, I would say white supremacist, but it's labeled as a white supremacy. And I mean, I think the reason why it got missed and why people aren't aware of this actual being spread, because this is actually calling, like, I'm looking at like chats that they've managed to excerpts from court cases. They're showing like, oh, target your church. Like, that doesn't come from like, white supremacist groups. This is something far beyond that, I would say. Like, am I missing something, or is this just the way the news media is trying to label this? They can't figure out what this really is, or am I missing?
I mean, there are white supremacist groups that hate Christianity, so I wouldn't say that that's contradictory. Like, I'm not saying most of them, but there's a big section that think Christianity is like a foreign religion that is not European. So
So yeah, for the 764 network, which houses Telegram, is actually heavily influenced by that group that I referenced earlier, the O9A, so the Order of Nine Ingles. And I think I posted a short link on them in the chat, but I would do some research into that because that kind of answers your question. So this specific group is one of the Satanist groups that I was referencing, and they actually are heavily against the Western. When Pepe was up here earlier and brought up accelerationism, accelerationists are extremists who want to, in this order of things we're talking about, who want to basically have a new world order. This group, the Order of Nine Ingles, which heavily influenced all of these groups, is Satanist, and they are heavily against Judeo-Christian values, and they feel like our government and system in the Western world is too influenced by these Christian values. So if you saw the video, for example, from the Minnesota situation, you saw like on the gas canisters it said Jew gas, just to kind of like tie it all together. So they have like this concept that I actually was just reading about it last night, but basically they believe that they're going to basically destroy the government here, and then at some point they're going to usher in this new world order of white supremacy. Then we're in like a phase where there's an aeon, so like a god that people worship. So they're considering America the aeon right now. This is where we're getting to like the Satanist concepts, right? So like everybody in the world is worshiping America, this aeon. once that falls, a new aeon is brought in, but they're considering it like some time in relation to like is Imperium. I didn't fully read on it. God forgive me. I did post one of the leaks. Something about colonizing outer space, and also like when the Imperium thing comes, it's supposed to like bring them joy and happiness. So as far as like the white supremacist aspect, I'll just say no. I don't think you have to be necessarily white to be a white supremacist. Because Solomon Henderson was most certainly black, but was definitely citing things from white supremacists and like using a lot of that language. I think that this is just like, you know, these groups who have these ideas and these goals and are radicalizing children, if that makes sense. Like, that's pretty much essentially what's happening. That's who they're recruiting.
You're a fascinating cat, Saint.
So
This is crazy shit.
So, say like I'm watching Curtis's video. Thank you, Curtis. Curtis put a video in the chat for you. Those of you that want to watch the shooter's video from Minnesota. It's eye-opening. Be cautious that you're not watching it in a place that, like at work or something like that, or around your kids, and don't stream it to your TVs and be dumb about it. It's disturbing. It's actually something that I would be terrified of, and if I'm scared of it, you should probably be a little bit afraid of it. I'm blown away. I did not know this. I think this is a hate group. It could be white supremacy. Fuck them. I don't really care what clan they want to call themselves by. I don't really give a shit if they have Casper conventions and Target bedsheet sales. I don't give a damn. I'm just fascinated that I never knew about this till today. And everything you said, saying I'm cross-referencing and checking, and it seems to be accurate what you're saying. So I can't say this is just some sort of conspiracy theory or some kind of rabbit hole. I would never condone this. This is not something in my wheelhouse. I'm actually kind of disgusted that this has not been brought up a little bit more and been more precisely correlated, especially when after the incidents you cited. I have an issue with this. I have another issue, like as I'm diving through, I can see why people would have been choosing to ignore this, because I'm watching this. The Young Turks, they're doing, the neo-Nazi lady with a trans man on, Benjamin Carollo, talking about how dangerous this woman was because she's the voice of Telegram, but then finding out she's later discharged of it and she wasn't connected to it, but they were like going on because she was blonde hair and they went down this race thing. I'm like, I don't know. I can see why people like just don't pay attention to the stuff that we should be talking about. This should be something that we know about. This should be something everybody knows about, especially parents with your kids online. I'm massively confused why we don't.
Yeah, I want to leave, so I just want to say quickly before I go. Yeah, so I came in here. I didn't see any rooms like talking about it, but I work with the Bureau, the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and so like basically what I'm like sending are just like, you know, public links that I found, because I just literally went back to work 3 days ago now. Yeah, yesterday was Wednesday for me. And like literally like emails hopped in, and then this happened yesterday. And so these are like just the immediate things that like my research brought me to, that are public. The information I'm sharing to you is like public stuff that I can like actually give people that I just think is important, because it's something that, you know, the news is obviously like not informing people on. And they're targeting kids, you know, a lot of these groups, sexploitation, it's not anything in reference to gender or, you know, there's boys and girls. It's not anything in reference to political ideologies. As you see, when pay attention to the Minnesota one, for example, it doesn't make any sense. You know, a lot of people would be like, okay, this is a trans person on the left, but the person's like citing this Republican guy, but at the same time it's kill Trump. Like, these aren't anything that I would say are like held by any defined lines outside of these people specifically like reference their hatred of humanity and humankind, and they are enjoying the concept of getting notoriety from killing people in their early 20s. They're in their teens. They're 16 years old to like, you know, like, it's important for people to kind of just be aware, especially if you have kids who you know what I mean, are on video games or who you're hearing referencing like specific stuff. You know, parents are getting charged now for Samantha Rucknow's dad got charged. The one from Madison, Wisconsin. I think that may have been the first one. As they should, right? Because now who's about to tell these, you know, for instance, yesterday, 20 people or 17 kids injured, 2 dead. Like, you know, people are looking for somebody to fall. Like, what do we do? So,
would you mind?
Facts are important.
Would you mind like reaching out to KK? She wants to definitely. I do too. I think everybody that normally hangs around it, we tend to find things that we don't know a lot about, and we want to do something more informative. I would love it very much if you would come to another one of our rooms. We'll do this on, you know, domestic terror or whatever label we come up with, and we can sit down and really truly interview you when you have more time. We can do it on a weekend. But if you could reach out to KK and myself, I would love to sit down and just have this like really in depth, a little bit more information, and we can put up KK's got Spirit Finger. She does this like whole power board where she's got all the links, and she does her whole thing. And we got like a psychologist, we've got teachers, we've got police, we've got you know, military personnel and others. I would love to have you kind of, you know, help us walk through this and kind of be able to see this. I really truly am genuinely being sincere about this. I'm not trying to be troll. I don't give a shit about clout. I don't care if there's 5 people in a room. I'm just genuinely very curious about this, and I promise I will do as much research as I can before you come in, so I don't come in completely dumb and you're trying to baby walk me or spoon feed me everything. But we can get to the guts and the meat of the substance right away if you'd be willing.
I think it's like a new era of terror that most parents are not aware of, that our children are exposed to, that we need to really understand. Just like parents are not used to or aware of, you know, these new types of drugs per se. It could be laying right there on the counter and you would not even know that would be something potentially dangerous for your kids. So just even that knowledge would be good. So yes, I'm the same. I will definitely, we follow each other now. If you can send me some information and I'll work with you, we'll figure out a schedule, but this is great information. Brad, can you do a quick reset, please? Since I'm sure your crock pot is about to explode.
Oh yeah, that broke already. It's now, it went from ERR and now it's broke. So I'm just going to throw it in the oven and we're going to try this thing. I put it at 475, hoping it'll cook fast.
I hope
you do not cook lamb at that temperature, for crying out loud. Bradley, that's it. I'm going to have to fly down and cook you 2 weeks of food at a time.
I think you need a Brad cooking insurance to help your appliances in your house.
Brad needs life insurance.
I think Brad
needs insurance. He needs to put himself in a bubble, like a self-protective bubble.
I guarantee my pregnancy coverage is up to.
Super quick. Is it mutton or is it lamb?
It's lamb. I didn't shoot this one.
Okay, so it's not mutton. All
Brad,
right. Well,
did you say this one?
Brad, why are you cooking lamb in a crock pot? First of all, did you marinate your lamb before you even put it in the
Mrs. Clark, baby, I tried this with him. No, ma'am.
Know what marinate means.
Okay, are you?
There is no butter. There is no rosemary. There is no garlic. There is no salt or pepper.
I know you're white, but you can't be that type.
He's
of
the middle-aged white dude. Did we expect him to
say that too? But I didn't want to go there.
Brad, I know you got some Worcestershire sauce.
All right, Mrs. Clark.
Mustard and soy sauce.
If I heard him right,
He's actually in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. I'll give him a little credit. They really don't know places up there.
No. Brad's not there.
I know.
But Brad is certified outdoor, so he's an outdoor cat kind of a person. Indoor, he doesn't know how to do things, and he needs a special insurance to protect him.
Brad, go grab a local cedar tree and grab some cedar sprigs and add that.
Are you trying to stew this lamb meat?
No, I tried to make this shepherd's pie thingy. I got the peas. I threw the meat in there. I threw the potatoes in there. And then I threw the peas on it, and it was supposed to cook it. And it says slow roast. It says easy recipe. You don't even have to peel the potatoes. You can just throw them in there.
Did you wash the potatoes before you cut them and put them in there?
You were supposed to cut them.
You're supposed to wash them.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, Brad. Oh my God, Brad.
So like yeah, and then the crock pot says error on it, and I don't know what I fucking did wrong. And then now it's just a blank screen. And
did you have any liquid inside of the bottom of this crock pot?
No, that was the first. That was the other one.
Okay, it was probably erroring because it got too hot, and that's the only reason why the crock pot will error. So if there wasn't any water inside of the crock pot or liquid, it will do that.
I think I put any in there. I did it on the first one. I did it on that other one.
Crock pots with displays on them?
Okay, we can have Brad's cooking school.
Mine has just a knob.
Can you reset the room, Brad, without your lack of cooking skills? So we have some new people on stage that may want to speak on the actual subject.
All right. So pull your headphones away from your ear. Turn down your volume. For it, she's going to get it, and hopefully you can hear me. Marshall, can you hear me? JK.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Political Compass, your one-stop shop for news and things going on in the world, where we have discussions and we learn things. We actually have back and forth discussions. We value all opinions from all across the aisles and every topic that is brought up on our stage. However, you must stand firm. You must be tough. You must validate your opinion. And don't be afraid of criticism. We actually want to have a back and forth with you. This is a biased conservative house. I make no qualms about that. I hide nothing from it, but I do welcome all differing political opinions. We do not discriminate based on race, gender, or fucking sky daddy issues. I don't care about any of them. All faiths are welcomed. All races are welcome. All sexes, particularly those of women, are definitely welcome. We care about what's going on in the world. We want to cover the news. No, not everything Trump does is perfect. I still think he's better than Kamala. I still think he's better than the Democrats' plan going forward right now. And with that being said, make sure you listen to the mods. There's two queens in the house. That is KK and Patricia. If either one of them does not like you, you have problems. I can't save you. Don't back channel me. Marshall is our historian, our legislative genius. He will sit there and call out us if we go astray or get some facts wrong. He's our information highway. We learn from everybody. I'm fascinated today. Today's topic was on the Minnesota shooter today, and of course the Scotland Queen Mary of Scots, the Scottish girl and her axe and knife. If you haven't found that one up, Google Scottish girl with axe, and you will find an entire fascinating thread. I just loved all the memes. But with this, we also learned today about Telegram and something I was not really formally aware of. And I think we're going to have further room. So please follow the club, follow speakers, people you like, and come back. We try to do this about 1 to 4 every day, or at least in between, and usually on weekdays. But we're going to do an expose on this. We're going to deep dive in this. So we're going to gather some information. We're really going to try to provide some information to people and maybe draw a big crowd so people can be aware of what's going on, what this is about, so that you can protect your kids. That's the overall goal. Some of us have to actually stand up and protect the world. With that said, carry away. Do whatever where this new discussion wants to go, KK. I don't know where we're at right now. I'm just still fascinated and floored and still trying to figure out this fucking thing.
Okay, so this topic can go several different directions. One direction we were discussing earlier before we went down this Telegram conversation is, what is if there is a singular factor to determine who could be a potential shooter per se. We were talking about race, we were talking about gender, we were talking about the trans community switching from one to another. We had some stats given. If you're just joining the room, you can scroll up and everyone gave some interesting stats. So the stage is popcorn style. Please allow those who newly joined the stage to speak first, and then I'm going to mute up, and I just want to get your thoughts on what you think of the Minnesota shooter, what you know about that shooter, and if there's any defining factors that you feel like could have prevented all of this going on.
Yeah, so I'll put in my first thoughts, being that I'm probably the one on the stage that's the most recent out of the K-12 system, so I probably know the most about it, at least in recent time.
That's just because you're 12.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. Like, I'm so sorry, but all the drills and all the safety preparations that we do, I mean, if you guys read statistics earlier, I'm hoping that one of them that was read is that the majority of the school shooters don't come from outside the school, they come from inside. It's the students that end up doing it. So, for example, when we go through all these like dumbass school shooting drills that we have to go through 24/7, quite literally all we're doing is just giving the game plan away to the shooter. That's all it is. It's, hey, the shooter's going to come from one of you guys. And one of you guys, apparently, who's smart enough to operate a fucking gun and have a whole detailed plan out of how you're going to kill people, is going to be too stupid to realize that when the classroom lights are off, that it means that people aren't in there. That's what all of a sudden that sort of means. Not that it's fucking off and everyone's huddled up in the back like a giant firing target to spray and pray in the back of the classroom corner. Or here's all the exit routes. Guess what? Now the shooter knows the exit routes too. So he knows exactly where to take you out from there as well. And like that's a big factor, I think, that whenever people go into these safety discussions, or they go into even more things, like, for example, arming teachers and all that bullshit that they want to go through there, even though statistically we can add on more, adding guns to the situation doesn't necessarily make it more safe, especially when those teachers or the people that are armed civilians don't have training in high-pressure situations, don't have military training, don't have police training, and even some of the police, when they do have training, choose still to not do anything. We saw that during Uvalde. So, like, there's a ton of things where we see people with training and without with guns that even when they're present at the situation, I'm pretty sure from 1982 to 2012, out of all the mass shootings that happened there, less than 1% of them were stopped by somebody who had a firearm on them as well during that time. So do I know what the solution is? No. But do I know what one of the solutions isn't? It's adding guns. That's not a solution. And thoughts and prayers haven't fucking worked for the last 30 years in a row. So that one's not doing anything either. What needs to happen, at least in my opinion, America needs to start caring more about children than they do about their gun culture. The moment that we stop caring about gun culture more than we care about the lives of people, or we care more about people than the right to have a tool that lets us play God, then maybe we'd be okay.
I do have a question. If you don't,
that tool doesn't let them play God though, because you can't create nothing with a gun.
You saw what they're taking on.
I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people talking about gun control and different things like that. And it makes me really wonder, like, if we actually got off into the weeds about gun control, what type of gun control would you want? Like, what type of laws would you want to see implemented that you feel like would make a difference in this case?
Yeah, sure. I don't want anybody, and call it ableist, I'll double down on it. I'll stand on it. I don't give a fuck. Anybody with some type of mental disorder, get the fuck away from a gun. You don't need one. If I can't have the mental disorder going into the military in order to do so, you can't have one to own a fucking gun as a civilian. I'm okay. If the military can realize that, so can like regular civilians. I don't think that's a huge fucking step to take. On top of that, when it comes to what's called evaluations, et cetera, I think that people should have to renew their gun licenses. I think that people should have to renew their psychological tests. Because, for example, one person may be okay mentally to handle a firearm during 1 year. In 5 years' time, something crazy could fucking happen to them where they develop something where they're no longer able to do so, right? So I believe in the same way that people have to get licenses renewed for multiple different things, so should gun licenses, and so should the test to see if you're mentally fit to carry a gun as well. That would be one of the most basic ones that would end up curbing a lot of shit that we have to deal with right now. Call it ableist all you want. I'll stand on it because it's safe.
No, I agree with you. I think a lot of people have been saying that in order for people to buy certain rifles, certain pistols, I know depending on where you live now, you have to have a pistol permit in different So there are states that have licenses in order for you to own, in order for you to conceal carry, and do different things like that. I think like even in certain states, if you're under a certain age and you decide to buy a pistol, you have to have a pistol permit, which you go to your local sheriff department. And yeah, you can't, in certain states, you can't even buy one unless you're 21.
Yeah,
right?
this county required a pistol permit.
Huh? I'm sorry, Bucky, what did you say?
This county required a pistol permit of the shooting.
Yep.
The county specifically requires a pistol permit.
I think.
Yeah. So, and then too for the I think the bigger part here, and I agree with you, is the mental. And this is where it kind of gets tricky. You're going to.
Is it just me, or is she matrixing right now?
Yeah, you're matrixing.
Miss Clark.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Right now, yeah.
Okay. So unless, and I agree with you, this is going to be one of those things where unless the state or the federal government puts something in place for people to take a mental test to ensure that they're capable of carrying, that's going to be the tricky part. Because that's the reason why earlier, and I don't know if you were here, I asked the question of when he went to get his gun, because as far as I know, if you have any type of mental disorder on record, you cannot purchase a gun.
Correct. It's already illegal under federal law.
Yes, and in this case, he was not seeing a doctor. He was not going to someone that would have been able to say, hey, surprise, surprise, this person's mentally unstable. Let's make it to where they can't get a gun. Like I heard people saying he was struggling with his sexuality, but even though he was struggling with his sexuality, that's not cause, unless we're going to make it law and cause to say, if you're a person who struggles with your sexuality and jumping between if you want to be trans or not, you have to go to a medical professional and then get that documented and then, put that in a way where you're no longer able to access guns. That's one thing. So I do that type of mental test is going to be a hard one to get past, because now the question becomes, who do you deem mentally stable and who you don't deem mentally stable?
It's not just that. It would fit the definition of an undue burden. Now, there's already an existing federal law in the books which allows the federal government to argue, right, if you're schizophrenic and it's on record, right, like you can't go buy a gun in most states.
Also, if you have history of DV, you can't buy a gun too.
Right, but I'm not necessarily speaking on this like history that's already been there. I'm speaking more of like you need a test on site in order to get that, not like, oh, bring your medical history, et cetera, et cetera.
No.
Before you need to go get assessed before going ahead and.
Yeah, no. One of the problems is that the court calls stuff like that an undue burden. There's a balancing test the court does with rights. And one of those tests is a reasonable person undue burden test, right? And the question is it an undue burden to have to take a mental test to be able to access a right? That is the question the court would consider. Given that it's more conservative, it might side conservative, but that would be the essential question at hand.
I understand that, but then the opposing question from the moral perspective, at least to me, goes, where's the undue burden of the amount of people dying every single day, especially children, from this shit?
Well, that's a different argument. Marshall, I thought in this thought experiment, we were, and I could be wrong. I thought we were not using the Second Amendment as our like measuring stick, right? Because I'm sure in all his proposals, mine included, we would abolish the Second Amendment, and gun ownership would be a privilege, not a right. Certainly under the framework of the Second Amendment, there are a gazillion hurdles.
Well, if you can get it passed, I'm not gonna if there's a campaign waged to change the constitutional amendment and I'm on the losing side, I'm not gonna bitch about that. I just don't. You fight a hard campaign for what you believe, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I wouldn't exactly be that way. More what I meant was we either think all the constitutional rights matter or we think none of the constitutional rights matter. The important part about rights is that they can be limited. The Heller test in 2008 said limited or fundamental but not unlimited. And the most recent, the Bruin test, rewrote the standard from the 1790s to the 1920s or something. say all of that to say that it is a constitutional right in that way, and that we can't.
I mean, is it a right?
We can't brush the listed right to the side simply because we don't necessarily like it. The right exists. The right passage is what you. Hold on. The right passage is what you propose, which is a constitutional amendment. That's completely within line of the system, like how you're supposed to actually do that, right? Like there's an amendment process, and like I said, if we change the amendment in a perfect world and I'm on the losing side, I'm not going to complain about it. Fair's fair.
I think once the boomers lose power.
Sorry.
I think once the boomers and I'm aware of how the amendment process works, and I don't disagree with you, Marshall. I'm a gun owner, but I'm very much anti-Second Amendment because I think that the floor is so low for gun ownership in this country, and too many idiots have guns, and they're making the responsible people look like they're endorsing the idiocy, and sometimes the responsible.
I know that. There's a guy, Mr. Finley.
Hold on, Marshall. Let Finley finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And sometimes the gun owners do endorse the idiocy because the fear is the slippery slope fear, and I think that that's where we get it wrong. This idea that if you do this, then they're going to do that and that and that and that and that. And certainly, and we've seen this with gun rights. Certainly, there's a point in which you can put the brakes on this imaginary slippery slope, and that is a big problem because again, even a lot of law enforcement folks will agree there are certain things that are quote unquote common sense that we could do that's pushed back against. And one of those things is like the handcuffing of the ATF to freaking get the guns out of the hands of the idiots. Like we handcuffed them from doing that because we fear the government overreach. And I think that in and of itself is kind of.
Okay, if I can jump in and
wait, hold on, Mrs. Clark. I'm going to let Marshall go because you wanted to respond to that, and then I'm just going to interject for one sentence. And then I'm going to hand it right to you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Clark, you can go first.
Wait, I thought he's going to say something.
All right, so we'll do this. I want you guys to think on this. I am not saying that there is a gun problem. I'm not saying XG may have where did he go? Oh, he's still there. I'm not saying he may have some sense to his argument. I'm saying listen to his argument. Also, for those that are pro 2A, like who own multiple firearms, like I do, I want you to recognize this moment, because once you give up a right to the government, you no longer get that back. You will never get that back. It's like asking the government to start a program and thinking they will end. So be cautious about your wish to end, modify, or do things and fiddle around with laws and constitutions and giving that power to the government and saying, here, let me turn this back. But go ahead, Mrs. Clark, please offer your.
Yes, and for me sitting up here as an avid gun owner myself, when I think about turning gun rights into like gun ownership into a privilege, you now have an exclusionary. And with that exclusionary, who gets to decide who gets to own guns and who doesn't? Why, what, where? Because even when we talk about gun laws, and both me and my husband have been sitting up here in a vehicle talking about it, I remember most of the gun laws that even exist today, realistically, were in play to limit Black people. I encourage everybody here to go watch the documentary on the Black Panthers, or read Negroes with Guns. Heavily after slavery, Black people were like, hey, we have the right to take up arms. We have the right to exercise the Second Amendment. And we did so heavily with guns and different things like that to defend our towns. That's when gun laws started coming out saying who and who can't own a gun, why you can't own a gun, when can you carry a gun, stipulations to carry a gun. Even when we go back to the Black Panther era, when Black people started policing our own neighborhoods, crime and stuff went down, but you also had the altercations where other people felt some type of way about seeing a militarized group of Black people carrying guns. So what did you see in California? A lot of heavy legislation started coming about who can carry guns, when can you carry guns, and so on and so forth. So when I think of people taking gun rights, which I'm sorry, me as a Black person has understandably, historically understood how guns have played a role in our community in protecting ourselves and different things grandfather going through shit because they would be outside shooting coyotes and other animals to protect the cattle, and they would have the authorities come out because they heard gunshots. And the idea that Black people had guns was just throwing the police officers off. They were just so like, well, why do you have it? Why do you need it? Why do you this? Why do you that? And I distinctly remember my papa telling one guy, I don't ever remember you talking to so-and-so asking them these questions about why they shoot their guns. So why are you asking me? I told you I'm shooting coyotes. What's the next issue? So when it comes, I'm going to reinstate this. When it comes to exclusionary practices, that's a very tricky road, especially here in the United States, about who gets access to certain things and who doesn't. As a Black person, I'm sorry, I can't get behind exclusionary practices because I understand how they disproportionately disenfranchise certain groups of people.
And even to what like Brad was saying, I mean, like, you know, once you give that right away, that like it's never gonna come back. Like once you allow the government to do something, they don't go backwards. Like look at everything the government has done. Have they ever truly reversed one of the things that they made?
Look at the building of the presidency.
Alcohol.
The president has become ever more powerful
let
over
him
250
finish.
years.
Yeah, and let Mr. Clark finish, and I'll respond to the alcohol comment.
And shit like that. Like even to I think it was Finley talking about the ATF, about like people handcuffing the ATF to stop it. I'm like, the ATF is fucking like the ATF be on bullshit. They making up rules because they feel like it that are not laws, making people felons because they just woke up on the wrong side of bed today. Like like people, that's why people don't like the ATF. If they was actually doing what their fucking job was, nobody would have an issue. But they come up with bullshit rulings out of no laws and just go fucking with people. Like they pulling up at people's houses like, let me see all your guns. Like for what? Why? That's not your job. Like do your job. Why are you over here creating new rules that nobody voted for? Like come on now. Like and then too, even when it comes to the Second Amendment, it's there for a reason. Without the second, what guarantee you gonna have a first? What guarantee you gonna have a 13th, the 14th, the 4th, whatever amendment? Like there's no guarantee you have any rights at all without the second. That's the whole purpose of it.
So can I say something to the? I got that right.
Yeah. So Finley, you brought up to Mr. Clark's point of the prohibition era. You should. One of the key things I hear this a lot when we have these discussions. Look up what the